Good day to you. Today's class, or not class, I'm so used to teaching class, webinar is actually going to be on the AutoCAD What's New in particular to 2025 version. So Autodesk has done some, enhancements and added some new features that I think it's worthwhile to mention in this webinar. So the first things first, we're going to go ahead and get some introductions sort of to the agenda and what we intend to do. So of course, there's going to be an agenda, the introduction on me and a little bit about me, and then there'll be a little bit of a poll question. There's a 4 poll question that we will be putting up and sharing with everybody so that they can put in their input. All of the results will just, they're anonymous, but they'll just give us a feel for, how everybody is with their, comfortability with AutoCAD and what versions they are and things like that. So there's just 4 questions there. Then we're going to jump right into what is new with the AutoCAD 2025, go through some of the new features and enhancements. I will do a demonstration of those features that we are going to be bringing up. And there will be some closing slides, which include some Q&A, and we will wrap up with the webinar at that point. So as I mentioned, there will be, and as Ashley mentioned, there will be some Q&A time at the end. So if you want to type in your questions at that point, you are welcome to, or if you want to put them during the slides, I may look up and see a couple of them and try to answer them as I go along. But just have that, if you have any questions with regards to the AutoCAD presentation today, feel free to, ask away. All right, so we have a few enhancements that I like to bring up in, on these bullets here. And first is, with the Activity Insight, this is a new tool that is built into the Insight. Now, Insight has been implemented in older versions of AutoCAD, and they gave you insights of how you might use or how you are using. And then it could give AutoCAD in terms, and it gives you sort of feedbacks as to, have you tried certain things to improve pro efficiency around some of the editing or some of the manipulation of the geometry. There's also the ability to import markups through Autodesk docs, where nowadays we do a lot of traveling or out of office. It could be because of the pandemic has changed and it has, and maybe many of our lives, it changed our working locations. Now we might work from home. We might work from outside locations where we just have internet connectivity and we're able to VPN into our networks and do work. Or this tool here gives us the ability to you create markups online, which that in itself isn't really new. It's just the ability to import that into our into AutoCAD. Another thing that has been introduced from previously was the term smart blocks. And some of the things and improvements that they have done with the 2025 is they introduced the ability to search and convert your block. So you'll be able to look around in your drawings and pull up the block convert command to be able to convert, maybe it's just one or multiple entities. The real goal here is you have multiple entities that might look alike, the first instance that you've selected, and that you want to convert them all into one block. Just imagine being able to select one and saying, all right, let's go ahead and convert the rest of them, the rest of the geometry as blocks, and you don't have to go and copy and paste over and delete the other entities or anything. It just converts them right then and there. This one right here, it's in red, and I wanted to put this in red because it is, Autodesk actually claims that it is it's a technology preview of what is to come. Okay, this here is going to be improving with the more uses that you get out of it. This works hand in hand with the, being able to sort of, I don't want to say it works as a search, but what it does do, it offers the ability for AutoCAD to actively look around when summoned for examples where blocks could be used. So it gives you the advice of, hey, maybe this right here can be, a block. Now, because it's a technology preview, and then what I will be demonstrating, I'll show you how maybe some of the things that it detects, maybe not quite so, what I would like or expect, but there's still other entities that I want to, bring in and convert as a block. Both of these tools are helping us search for the items that could be blocks, improving efficiency within AutoCAD, being able to, take advantage of using that block library, for example. One of the things I do like about it is that it doesn't just, suggest, oh, the creation of new block. No, no, no. It'll suggest things like, oh, you have an old block. Both of these tools have that ability built into it. Then we're going to talk about hatches and how there's some improvements to the hatches, or I shouldn't say improvements, it's more of enhancements, right? The enhancement that allow us to create our hatches. We can, it used to be that you would just select a enclosed boundary and say, hatch this area. Now it gives us sort of a tool that allows us to kind of trace around the boundary or to draw our hatches with a predefined width that we can define. And then there's the ability to use Esri maps. So Esri maps has been around for a number of years, but this is the first time that Autodesk has incorporated its map and its technology into AutoCAD. There are basically 5 types of maps that we'll be able to bring in, and we'll go over some of those and talk about how that works with that. And then we're going to talk about some additional enhancements that they have included as part of this version of AutoCAD. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get into our demonstration and go through some of the new features, and go ahead and bring AutoCAD up onto screen. So looking straight out of the box, you may look at AutoCAD 2025 and say, not much change in that interface, and you're right. There are enhancements and new tools that have been included in here, and I'm going to start off with the blocks. So the first thing with the blocks is, back in 2024, one of the previous versions, they introduced the smart blocks. And the smart blocks, the whole purpose of that was to be able to help you insert blocks based on what you have before. So if I wanted to put another block over here, that space that you have here, of course, we can use the copy with base point. But if you go into the insert tab and you start inserting that same chair block, one of the things that you can do is you can have actually get close to the line geometry or the position. And if you take a look, it has that predetermined offset that you can see that's already there. And as I get, into a closer position of the offset between the other horizontal line there, you can see both the vertical and horizontal line of the depth now is illuminated with gold. This is the smart block capability. So expanding on that smart block capability, Autodesk has included the ability to convert blocks. So here we have a bunch of lines and even an additional block that's in place here that represent a computer. But if we look all around on our drawings, you'll see we already have some blocks in place, and some of these were just inserted as individual items. Well, what's really nice about this tool that I'm going to show you is I can do a window around this, and I can just simply type in B convert. Now there isn't a button yet, and that is something I hope that comes soon, because I think this tool is awesome. So you'll see when I press enter after typing in B convert, or block convert is basically what that stands for, that all of a sudden everything else is faded except for these entities that it's selected here. And basically what it's telling us is that it determined that, okay, these are the entities that matches. And if I select enter, this convert dialog pops up, and it gives us basically 2 options. I can convert it using existing blocks by coming up here and choosing a block that I would like to use, or I can come in here and give it a name and create a new block. I can specify perhaps the insertion point. You'll notice that it just defaults to the center of the geometry. So the insertion point will just fall in the middle of everything that's selected. Something I didn't mention about the existing is you'll see down here it has recent block. So if you had access blocks previously, it will list them in here, and I can just go and select from this list as well. So this tool allows for us to convert entities into new blocks, or I'm gonna just go ahead and call the computer 2 because we already have something that's computer in here, but at least you can see what happens when I hit convert. It has now taken these entities and converted them into blocks. Pretty nifty because when you're looking around and you're trying to find items that maybe you've identified, you say, yeah, those are blocks, I already have them. Well, I can go ahead and convert those into block, and it does it in one shot. I don't have to go and copy and paste for every instance that are in there. You'll notice that these guys up here has changed also as a block. This one here, you can see that it hasn't changed. And one of the reasons that it didn't change is that you may have a different line, with a different layer. It could be that there's a gap. It looks at pretty much everything, including the properties of these lines, to match it. It's almost like if you've used the select similar tool within AutoCAD, it does something similar to that. It basically go look around your drawing for similar instances. Now that doesn't mean I can't convert this into a block, because I can certainly go and say, you know what, let's take this and use the previous command that I introduced, which is bconvert. And now I'm gonna go ahead and press enter. And I can come in here and there's, obviously there's a whole list, but here's the computer 2. And I can say, convert that into a block. Now you can see that it's not in the correct orientation. And when you go through this after you converted it, you can actually do a rotate, you can do a move, you can accept what's there. I like it, that I can just do that in one shot if I have to. I'm gonna try and let me turn on my object snap so I can find a point that I can rotate. I'm gonna just rotate it at 90 degrees. And then I'll just accept it. And now you can see that it's taken away the other item that's there. I might have to move this and put this in the correct spot and what have you. But at least it's taken that one item that wasn't in compliance with, when I previously used the tool, and I was able to convert this using the new block. Pretty nifty that I can do that. Now, the other block enhancement they have is something that allows for it to automatically detect. And if you look in the insert tab, there's the, over on the left, you have the insert. We have a new button over here that's called detect. If you click on this button right here, it will go through looking for, this is the technology preview. And you can see right here, it tells us, that's sort of the disclaimer there. It works best for items that are in plan. It's looking for architectural objects in floor plan. So it's elevations, not quite there yet, all right? I can still use the convert command for elevation. So if I have windows that are on a side of the building or anything like that, or maybe it's a cut feature that is put into a stock metal that maybe represents the gear teething or something like that, I can actually go and convert those into blocks and what have you. Once it's finished, you get this review button. And this is where, as a disclaimer, you're going to see that it picks up quite a bit of things. It's got 9 items. And you might look at this and say, well, what is it selecting? Well, it selected the column. Yeah, I guess that could be. But I'm more interested in some of the other architectural things that perhaps like the doors. These items here were not, blocks here, and it detected that it wasn't a block. And so if you have worked with the tool Drawing Compare, this toolbar is very much like that. You can see that we can just navigate through each instance of what it detects. And we can come over here, you can do a convert, clicking on this. Over here, we can actually, pull up an error report if there was any. But for us, what we would like to do is hit this convert. And it's, fortunately for us, it's the same dialogue that we've gone through, same interface gone through. And so at this point, I can say I can choose another door, but you got to be careful because the other door, let's take a look at this. You can see how the door swings is actually considerably wider. The 90-degree may not be the best choice, right? So maybe create a new block and give it a name. So I'll just call this, let's do door 2. Anytime you have something that already exists, you'll get feedback instantly that says, hey, this is already being used. So I'm just going to go ahead and do door 2. Maybe it's, the door is, let's say 36 inches, right? So I might put door 36 just to represent the size of that. Of course, we can use the center of geometry, or we can go and pick a point that we would like. And I'm just going to use the corner right here as actually, I'm going to put it like right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit convert. Now, once I have that in place, it's converted. I can go through and look at other items, and then I can close out. And now you can see that I have these turned into a block. So again, really cool enhancement with the block detection, with the block conversion, makes our life a lot easier when we're working with this. And that tied into the whole insight activity that I want to talk about now with the enhancement. One of the things that has come with previous versions of AutoCAD, if we go into the start menu, is that you see where it says My Insights. And there are times when I teach AutoCAD, I run into, what does this do? Why do we have this? Why is it information about what I do with AutoCAD? It gives you sort of the overall picture of how you are using or how you're spending your time using AutoCAD. And maybe perhaps this is not something that matters for some of us. Maybe, it's just, the type of commands that you're using. Perhaps it's, the personalized tips that it has. Notice it says, hey, have you tried this? Or, hey, feature recommendation. All of these come from the tool Insight, where it's basically reviewing sort of how you are using AutoCAD, and it's just making those suggestions. So, it's not intrusive because you navigate to it and you click on this and then you can go. It doesn't really just pop up on your screen and say, hey, but it allows you to kind of that flexibility to kind of review it at your own time. But some of the enhancement that they did with the activity or the insight is something called Activity Insight, which is really cool. For those that are using the Autodesk doc or even Microsoft OneDrive, when you save your drawings, one of the things is I'm going to do a save as just to show you how do you save to your environment for the Autodesk docs. There's a folder that automatically gets created, and you can start saving it there. You can also push these up to the cloud. So if you go to the collaborate, there's push to the docs. This really pushes up a markup, which we'll be going through. But we're able to save our files up to the Autodesk doc, and we get things like versions. We get things like comparison between it with this new Activity Insight. Now, what I like this so much that I actually right-clicked and I created this as a quick access button that I can get to because it's really nifty. When you click on this, it brings up a tool palette. And, it might take a little bit of screen real estate, but you can always auto hide it using this button right here so that it disappears when you don't need it, and you can cover over it and it brings it back. But I like it. It is really nice. It gives me basically all the edits that I have done since this file has been saved up to my Autodesk doc. You can see that we have the ability to compare the initial drawing to where I'm at. It's giving us a comparison of the drawing from back then to now. And this is using that compare tool that perhaps some of you have already been using. If you remember in the compare tool, one of the things you have to have is 2 DWGs in order to compare those two. And you'd have to have them downloaded onto your machine, or you must have, maybe a duplicate somewhere, an archive that you can compare. This tool because you're collaborating, you're putting it up on the cloud. Every time you save it, it creates a new version, and it just simply allows you to go and compare. So you can see starting last Friday, I have version 7, for example. I can go and click on that, and it will go and give me the difference with version 7. You can see there were some changes down here that I made. It's just a really nifty tool. You know, one of the things I do like about that compare tool is, suppose that you did this, right? You deleted this and you say, whoops, and you're like, oh, I need that back, right? You go back into an old compare tool and look, it illuminates and said, hey, you had some things missing here. And what I like about it is that I can take this and select. I even notice that these are missing here. Look at that. It's noticing that there's the monitor or changed. Maybe it was because I created a new block, you know. But anyways, you can see right here we have some changes that, you know, are not in here, and the ability for us to import those objects. Maybe I'm going to go ahead and just select these items, get these back into my drawing, press enter. And now when I close out of my compare tool, I have the tool back. So I really like the fact that I can go back into my activity insight and review some of the old things. You know, things that it's also has in here, traces. You know, Autodesk, you know, that whole collaboration, being able to, you know, make markups on the fly. They introduce traces as a way to make these markups, and that is in the collaboration. You can see that right here, there's a trace palette, and it allows you to go and you can create new traces by hitting this button here and making some changes. You can add new geometry. You'll see that I already have some traces. These right here, these are coming from the cloud. I'll elaborate on those. I can download those right onto my drawing here, and then they're imported directly in here. And that's what you see here. You see a lot of these traces that are already in place. So we have, you know, sort of the everyday kind of changes that have been made. Here you can see a PDF had been pushed, and you see it's got this random name. This is how it gets pushed to the Autodesk doc. It goes up as a random name like this, so it doesn't really have a specific name that matches the file name, but it knows, okay, that file is related to this. So when I go onto the cloud, I'm able to go and make those markups. So one of the things that I wanted to share with you is, you know, when we push things up to the cloud, you're going to, you know, with the subscription with the Autodesk docs, you can go and navigate to a folder. So if you double click on this, it's going straight into my my cloud, and you can see right here there's a folder called CAD file, and I can just upload my sheet, which I've already done so earlier. And this is what it looks like right here. So let me go ahead and close out of this dialog here. I'm gonna just go back in here. And so you can see that I have some markups that I kind of previously put up here. And this tool, notice it's using basically internet browser. It's really just internet browser that you use this tool with. You can just go and just make markups. It's basically the AutoCAD for web kind of, you know, piece here. But we can just do our markups. So let's say that, you know, I'm missing some furniture in this section here. I want to go ahead and put some markups here. Maybe, you know, make some changes to how it appears. I'm gonna go ahead and change the color here, give it a little less of a, you know, maybe 2 points. There we go. And then when you're ready, you can actually duplicate, or you can go ahead and publish. Now, publishing doesn't necessarily says that, hey, let's push it down to AutoCAD. Basically, it just basically kind of finishes up the actual markup, if you will, on that particular piece. Now watch this. If I come up here to this 3 dots here within my Autodesk doc, there's sync to the markups to the AutoCAD. So when I click on this, it allows me to select who the user is. There'll be a whole list. Then here I can put comments, please review, markups, and update drawing. Now I didn't put any text or anything like that. I could have done that. Now I'm gonna come back into, you know, into AutoCAD, and notifications usually come down from over here. If you click on this, you'll see here is the previous markups I have. So if I go and say, you know, let's go ahead and download these markups here, I can go ahead and import them. I can go ahead and click on them, and they will also show up on screen as well. And if we take a look, you can do a a comparison and things like that. This particular trace, it looks like I did not have anything in there. So if I go ahead and close out of that and just go and review another trace. What I also like about this tool is that it gives you the sort of the responsibility, or it gives you sort of who did it, right? Who made these changes? So here's a trace, previous markup here, and you can see missing office furniture needs to be put into place here. And I have the ability to say, okay, where is it in the drawing? It kind of overlays this right in here. So I can see, okay, missing furniture over here as well. I can go and make those edits and change as needed the the drawing itself. So I can close out of this and say, all right, let me go and do my work, put in the furniture and put that up there, and then call it the day. Now, when I save the file, it will create a new version. Now you can see I'm at the version 6. This again works with that Autodesk stop. So, all right. The next thing that I want to share with you is some of the enhancements that they have done with the graphics. If we come over here to the, this little, I guess I call this sort of the old hour hand clocks here. It looks like this, maybe it's a gauge, right? If you right click and go to graphics performance, it may not look different here, but if you take a look, there's a tab here. There's a diagnostics tab. This is something new, and this is very beneficial for those where you want to get feedback as how my hardware is standing up to AutoCAD. Sometimes your AutoCAD is not running at its best, and you're trying to figure out this might be the tool that you need. Just going straight into that graphics performance, and then looking at this tab and seeing. It will look for basically if the drivers are up to date. If there's no green check here, then it will give you sort of a report as to what it found. It lets you know. There's also a tuner log down here. So sometimes if you need to show Autodesk, this is what I got from the tuner log, that you can go and click on this, and it will give you a text file that you can send to them. Or if you want to send it to IT to say this is what we're running into, this tool gives you that feedback that lets you know where you could improve things with your AutoCAD user experience. Other changes that they have done, or enhancement they have done, is the changing of file format. So it's not so much of an enhancement, it's just more of a file format change that they have done, and it was updated. Kind of like Microsoft Office, they went through the updates of their format where you have the .x, the XLX, and things like that. DWG didn't go there, but you have the DWF, then you had DWF-X or something like that. If you use macro recorder, all right, so if we go into our manage tab and we go into our action recorder right here, I call it macro recorder. All of this is pretty much the same. You start drawing out, for example, a rectangle. Let me just make sure that I am recording. So it is recording, and I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of put this simple thing, and I'm just gonna press enter. Now what happens is the action recorder, when I stop it, it actually asks for a name. And so you can see it used to be ACTM, now it has an X. So the newer format is now including the X at the end. And so things are going to be trained. So if you have an existing macro functionality, you may have to, bring those in, and they'll still be read. You can still read them, but then you might want to update those to the new format, capturing any of the new, features you might get. That's one of them. The other one is a change that was done to, I'm trying to remember that I have it at the tip of my tongue, the name of the tool, but it does allow you to create the table, the data extraction. That's what I was looking at. This is the data extraction. If you haven't used the data extraction, basically this tool allows you to, so if you have blocks with names, you can actually get a comprehensive list of how many of those. It's almost, I don't want to say bill of material, because it will extract information from this drawing, but you have to be very, spot on with your block naming convention, things like that, to identify those blocks. If they have metadata about those blocks, you can have 50 chairs, but you can have a tag, an attribute that calls one as a type A, one as type B, one as type C, and so on forth. You could actually distinguish those in this extraction. They went through a change. It used to be the DXE. Now we have a DXEX, but you can see that it still accepts the DXE. So if you've run this tool before, any of the previous ones will work, but going forward, the new ones will be saved as a DXEX. And that's pretty much all of the new enhancements that I can bring up on screen. There is one that Autodesk has made that is on behind the scenes, and that is basically the performance of opening up files within AutoCAD. They've reduced the time that it takes to open up some of the drawings that may have previously taken, longer. So there is a reduction in terms of opening up files. I remember when I opened this file originally, it was somewhere around and I'm using SSD, but it was still around, maybe the 15-second mark. Now I'm opening it around the 10-second mark. Same file, between the same computer, same SSD. But in the 2025, I do notice that, certain files, it does open up a little bit quicker. On the smaller files, you may not notice it because it's right there, right? No matter what. But, on larger files, you might see that type of performance. And that's something, again, that, it's behind the scene that Autodesk has improved. So it looks like we have some questions on, Gary has answered a lot of them. Thank you. Can you do a batch convert on all files? Well, it allows you to, so the B convert tool, right? So if I have this chair right here that I select one instance of that, and I use the B convert, okay? What it does allow for you to do is based on what it has selected. See, it has selected a lot of these, right? It allows us to convert these into a block, but it looks for similarities of other things. So, when you deal with the AutoCAD electrical, you're dealing with, I guess it just depends on how you use it. So, you can have a push button that, basically it's the symbol of it, and then you have those already located. You might, it's within the same drawing. You can run this command. As far as converting, again, it will convert anything that you've selected. So it's really meant for converting things that you have that you identified, you, the user, had selected and say, yeah, this could be a block, even though it already exists all around, right? So at that point, you could create a new block or say, that really should be the chair block. So let me go ahead and pick one of the existing one that I have in place, which is chair 7, and convert that. And then you see where it goes through the normal redefine a block and what have you, because there might be some changes to other blocks that were already selected, right? So if I go and redefine a block and hit accept and leave it, okay. All right. So let me see if there's any other questions. It looks like most of everybody has their answers. I'm just scrolling up on the answer panel here. Candace. I thought I saw one that said, can this be done in the 2022? I think I saw that. Oh, wait, how do I access the Collaborate tab in the 2022? Okay, and it looks like Gary's already got that as well. Yeah, the Collaborate tool was something that was new. So that was, but it does, okay, so you can actually turn that tab on by right-clicking on the tab and including that. So just, again, making sure we have questions. Does the Activity Insights work with Plant 3D? Okay, that is something I have not tried. It is certainly a AutoCAD tool, it's built in. I know that a lot of the enhancement that we show here are more for kind of like the vanilla AutoCAD. Certainly something that you could experiment with and see if it works. Again, if you save things up to the Autodesk docs, you might be, and if you're able to do compare tools from previous version of Plant 3D, then I don't see why you could not try. It's something that you want to try, maybe you want to explore. Let's see. When I do show, oh, and that's let's see. Do these updates apply to? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, hey Dan, this is Gary. I have AutoCAD 2022. I just went and checked. Normally it does have a Collaborate tab, so I'm not sure from Lori, she's not getting a Collaborate tab, but I've got a typical AutoCAD 2022 installation still on my computer, and it does have Collaborate.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Yeah, so right-clicking up on the tabs and then going to Show Tabs, and then hit this Collaborate. That should bring that back up, the visibility of it. If it's not, then it's maybe a, I just realized I had my action recorder still going. It may be installation that needs to be checked.
Yeah, or maybe it was deleted from the current workspace.
Possible, yep. And that is something that you might explore. So if you're using a custom workspace, try the drafting annotations and see if that appear, and then see if the Collaborate is there. So always go back to a default or out of the box. How does data exchange between AutoCAD electrical and MicroState? Yeah, I don't have an answer for that. That would definitely be something we would have to explore and get somebody that knows the AutoCAD electrical a little bit more in terms of, and with MicroStation. So John will definitely need to, have another conversation for that. AutoCAD versions available for a lifetime purchase. Well, AutoCAD or Autodesk itself, typically if you would go and hit the download button for, so when you subscribe to it, you get up to, I think, 3 or 4 versions of the current release. Getting anything prior to that, that is something that you may try and open up a case and ask Autodesk for, but there's no guarantee. What makes it difficult for older releases is finding the hardware, the software drivers that support, because the world has already evolved to the newest level. They've already got, now we're at Windows 11. The older releases cannot run on Windows 11. That's just not, it probably could, but it's not supported. So if Autodesk says, oh, you're running 2018 in Windows 11, yeah, we don't know anything. We don't support that, So it definitely makes it hard to stick with the older releases. So definitely, staying on the trend. But like I said, up to 3 or 4 versions of the current release, you can get access to. Let's see, is there a bconvert command that can be used in an AutoCAD lift through? Oh, that is a very, very good question, Daniel. That is something I'd have to look into and ask some of my colleagues if there is. Given that it's new, there's a possibility, but then there may not. So definitely something. All right, Lori has added collaboration tab to her workspace, so it was missing. So awesome. All right, so it looks like everybody has their question addressed. And so, I appreciate everybody's attendance, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up my PowerPoint slide again. And we've already did our answers and questions there. What do we offer in terms of services? We offer, new user training, which is, that should be 3 days, not 1 day. We have advanced training that we offer that's 2 days. We also do custom training that basically, around certain topics that you may have. And we also do consulting. We do, implementation designing or implementation in general. helping you build out maybe distribution packages so that, you know, maybe you have a team of people that you do the installation, but you don't want to sit there and install every time. We could actually build you a package that will allow you to just run it, and everybody can just hit the same exe and they'll all get the same setup. You know, if you don't see anything, you know, is listed here, you know, one of the things you can just go towards our website here, where we offer a complete list of all of the upcoming training, anything like that. I'm gonna go ahead and click on that, and that should, hopefully will bring it up on the right screen. And here is the training. So here you can see a whole list of all of the upcoming training, and if you don't see anything in there, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll definitely get something up on there. We also have a YouTube channel that you can go to, and there's a lot of tips in there, a lot of you know, maybe, you know, 2-minute, 3-minute, 4-minute videos. Some of the webinars are also posted up there, and it's all about resources, getting information out to you to kind of, you know, help you along with maybe some of the queries that you might run into. So feel free to go and give that a look, and subscribe to our newsletter as well. We also offer newsletter right through our website that allows you to get updated and current information as to, you know, product information to announcements with within, you know, some of the offerings that we have to offer with Hagerman. So, you know, I thank you for carving out your time today and attending this session. And I'm going to turn this over to